and I would entertain a motion to start our regular town meeting.
I'll make that motion to start the town meeting.
There's a second.
Second it.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? All right, I'm gonna hit the gavel. Meeting is now in order. I want to thank you guys. I'm excited. This is our first regular town meeting of the new council, and looking forward to us getting through some business here today. We are going to start with a pledge of allegiance. Maybe, hopefully you have a flag around, and I do think we all need to be offering a pledge of allegiance to our flag these days. Pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America,
States of America, and to the republic for which it stands,
one nation,
under God,
under God, indivisible,
Under God,
with liberty.
liberty and justice for all.
liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. And if we could all just take a moment of silence, think about those shut in, think about so much loss that we've had over the last year, and the families impacted by these events, and so many other tragedies going on in the world today. Let's just take a moment of silence and think of the people who need our love and support. Thank you, guys. Now if we could take a moment and rejoice in the good things that we have in our lives, friends and family and loved ones, and let's just really say that we appreciate all those good things that we have in our life. Let's take that moment. Okay, I thank you all very much for that. It's been quite a thing going on. I'm going to start out, you all have the agenda. I'm going to start out by giving a report of the work session. So the work session was held on January the 5th, and we had a budget discussion to talk with the new council members on how the budget is determined, how it's created, what processes we go through. I was happy that we were able to take a lot of questions and work through things. Those questions are you're always open for questions at any time. We talked about future election dates as to whether or not we want to continue to have our elections in May, or do we want another time frame? Suggesting October, as many other places do, but we made no decisions. We can talk about it again in the future. We talked about planning for redistricting after the census, so that after we get the information on the census, that we can get together and go over that. We talked about MML and all the different kinds of things MML, Maryland Municipal League, has available to all of us as elected officials to help us moving forward with things that we need to know and understand about municipal government. And then we talked about other organizations like AWS and Anacostia Watershed Society and Anacostia Trails Heritage Area and the Port Towns Community Development Corporation, other organizations that support our town and our area, and how we might be able to participate with those. Talked about the processes and procedures, basically is how we operate within the town administration. We had a conversation about Black History Month event, and I look forward to us coming together and further discussing what we might be doing with that. We talked about the pet waste stations and how we can get more of them. And I believe that Mr. Gorham is looking into seeing what we can do, at least putting back some that were taken down, and going over the list that Councilmember Bowles was generous enough to send us, letting us know where those are in the trash cans as well. And we'll be looking at, I've asked Mr. Baden to look into the cost of the trash cans, so I look forward to what he brings to us. We talked about the new convenience store, tobacco store. that is in town and some matters that we need to, and we'll probably talk further, well, we will talk further about today in this meeting to ensure that we have a positive experience with this new business in town. We talked about the potential of the car wash area and what is explained. I will share with you, council, I have spoken to the attorney for that particular project and asked if he would be willing to pull together his guys to give you guys a presentation at the February work session so that you guys can get a feel for here what it is that they're talking about and what they want to do. So he felt like that would be a workable thing. So that's what our plan is right now, and is on our February work session for them to tell you what they are, their intentions are in that particular area. Now that's where the existing car wash is, and also where the convenience store and the old electric place and Fort Lincoln Medical Center and so forth, all that particular area right there is what they'll be talking about. I will let you know for your own edification, if you're interested in getting a Port Town sector map and sectional map amendment, it is the document that documents what can and can't be done here in the Port Towns. The proposal that is being put on the table includes a gas station with a convenience store, potentially a Dunkin' Donut, and a car wash. Car washes are not allowed in the sector plan. And so it would take a turnover of the community to agree to that. So that's an important piece of leverage in terms of what may or may not happen there that is available to us. We talked about 5G and the fact that we need to keep an eye on what's happening. Ms. Goodall, which many of you may not know, Ms. Goodall is a circuit rider who that's paid for by the state to serve us and the town of North Brentwood. And so she's looking into some of the ordinances passed by some of the other towns. We have an aesthetic ordinance, which says that they have to come to us and we have to approve what it looks like. But there's some things she didn't know about. She didn't know that Pepco was going to be letting them use their poles. And that originally Pepco said they weren't going to be using their poles. But of course, we learned that they are using our poles because they came in and put in all these new poles for the 5G. So she's going to continue to work on that. She is an excellent resource. If any of you guys would like, to talk directly with her in her study. She used to be the mayor of Forest Heights and knows a whole lot about some of these things. So she'll be working on things like the electric car and getting electric car stations and some of those other kinds of outside areas. And we also talked about the double poles, and she's going to be looking into that too and reaching out to our liaison at Pepco to find out what's going on with these double poles. And then we talked about parking in general and some of the matters that you guys have reported as well. And the chief has been doing some responsiveness there and may also be able to add some more to that conversation since we last talked. And that was the work session. So thank you very much for that. I'm going to move on now to council reports. Your first opportunity to actually give a report on your different ward and anything that you need to say about what's going on. And we're going to start with Ward 1, Councilmember Harding.
Hi everybody, how's it going? It's the first report. Well, as I've been walking around and tried to familiarize the community with myself, there's a few things that have been brought to my attention and things that we've already spoken about and my fellow council members have spoken about as well. The first thing has been the trash. I've had a person on 37th approach me about the area across from the IHOP and told me that just them walking, it's just bad to look at for them. And is that a part of where we clean up, and just ask me questions about that area. And I posted them a community cleanup if they would be open to one day if we just got out as a community and cleaned up the area that we felt necessary. And that's something that they were open to. Another thing was, and my final thing that I was approached on were the prices at Compare. And that was brought to me by a resident on Newark as I was walking around. And they just said that they've gotten to the point where they're shopping outside of the neighborhood, where they just don't go there because the products that they want cost too much. And that's basically all that I've gotten from my first couple of weeks within this. But a lot of people do express the same thing. That's my report.
Absolutely, and thank you very much for that. Definitely have heard the same. So Ward 2, Councilmember Hobbs.
So due to multiple complaints of the residents and in violation of parking ordinance, the oversized food truck was removed from 40th Avenue. And I would like to thank our chief of police, Tracy, for working with the neighbors and helping them explain the situation. And from what I've heard from other neighbors, it was very amicable. And the owner of the vehicle was understood the situation, that it was a violation, it was a hazard. So it was moved. I'm happy that it's not there visible and I could see down the street on the 40th Avenue. I know that the vehicle is currently parked in the owner's driveway. And according to the police, the parking permit will be revoked in the future due to size and improper permitting. So there was another immobilized vehicle on 40th Avenue with flat tire, and that was parked there for over the course of 3 or 4 months, and it was moved from 40th Avenue. It's no longer there, and I would like to remind the residents that if your vehicle isn't moved within 74 hours, an officer of the police department has the right to issue a vehicle a parking violation notice. And again, I would like to thank the police for working with the citizens on helping them understand the parking ordinance. And on the trash issue, I know there was some illegal dumping in the Colmar Manor Park that includes some, from what I could see, tire, maybe construction waste. And it is, I know it's an ongoing issue and it's really hard to catch the violators. I'm not sure, like, it is something that we could do about it. Of course, we can post signs and fines, but it all comes down to maybe also communicating better with the neighbors and again, stressing our trash days, trying to catch the violators. I was thinking it would be maybe smart to post some cameras. I'm not sure if that's within our reach at some locations where we have the most dumping happening. Yeah, and on also on Malik's the Compare Foods, I just want to say that the prices are expensive, agreed, but on the other hand, I had the most wonderful customer service experience there. Just yesterday, the lady just wished me a wonderful day and blessed day and just was wonderful in many ways. So I think they're trying, and they included their promotions in the bags now. So I know we do receive them via mail, but they're trying. So we need to help them regain their customers as in the community. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much for that. Appreciate everything. Ward 3, Councilmember Bowles.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, everyone. I just want to start my first board report by just saying thank you and to express gratitudes to so many people who are reaching out to offer assistance. I've already been asking for our elders, our previous public servants, our public works, our police. Everybody's been sort of pouring into me because I've invited it and I'm a little full, but thank you. And also to my fellow council, I reached out this week and made invitations for individual ward walks. So thank you, Council Member Harding, and thank you, Council Member Hobbs. Councilmember Mendoza and I were unable to get together on Sunday, but we do have a phone call planned. I'm especially looking forward to learning from her experience and just sort of getting to know each other as human beings as we serve together on this body and for the people of the town, because we're a little town, we're just one great big family. So that was the main thing I wanted to do, is just say thank you. Also to Kayla and Christian, who've both been really helpful this week from the office. I have been talking with some citizens on the matter of trash, but also on the matter of community and forming and growing our community. And so a couple of citizens have just been sort of batting ideas around in Ward 3. One was a community sing next Christmas. We have a lot of time to plan that, but we're just going to throw that out into the universe. And another was a potential block party, either in Ward 3 or Ward 4, or maybe I think in the past they did a combined. These are all ideas that are post-COVID, of course, but just knowing each other is going to make a great deal of help. And I just really appreciate it. The police, the office staff, the former council, the citizens, everybody has just been so helpful. This has been a 40,000 hour week for me this week, trying to catch up on my learning curve. And I also was really blessed this week. I reached out to County Council Member Ivy, and she gave me more than an hour of her time on Friday, which I'm so grateful for. And her assistant Monica, and both were just amazing. They had some great input. They had some thoughts about the trash as well. And both of them have offered to join me on a ward walk here. So let's do it. Mayor, I hope you'll come with me too. Maybe not on a 20-degree day, but you know, when it gets a little bit warmer, we'll just do it.
Yes.
We'll get out and walk. And anyway, that was great. And on the subject of Council Member Ivy, she also made me aware, and most of you are probably aware, but I also want the whole citizenry to be reminded that this Thursday, from 7 to 8:30 p.m., there is a conversation that's being led by Councilmember Jolene Ivy of District 5 and Councilmember Danielle Glaros of District 3. It's a virtual town hall considering and discussing the maglev train project, which, if it goes through, would have a very significant effect on Colmar Manor. Whether you're for or against the project, is certainly worth your time, I think, to check in. And it's very easy. You just go to tinyurl.com, TIN as in Nancy, YURL as in Larry.com/maglev PGC. That's tinyurl.com, maglev PGC. All you have to do is, you can do it, you register there, you put your email address in, and they're excited to share that time with us. There are other things going on, but I don't want to talk all ever. I did work a little bit. I spoke with Councilmember Mendoza, and also with Mike Gorham, and Mike was able to pull a poop station back out that had been in storage, and it's been installed at Mayor's Park on 43rd Avenue. So now Councilmember Mendoza's ward is kind of surrounded by poop stations. So there's one on the levee, there's one at former Mayor Hale's house, there's one at Mayor's Park, and there's one at the basketball court. So Ward 4 is fully served now. So if the citizens there are still having poop, y'all have a right to be mad, because there's plenty of places to poop. And I also stopped a young man this week and asked him to please not, he let his dog poop, and I informed him where the bag station was, and he actually went and got a bag and thanked me and came back and picked up his poop. So, you know, that's what we can do, is reach out. But dog poop is it's a public health issue, and it's also just, you know, who wants to step in that and ruin their shoes? Just be kind and thankful and grateful, and be supportive of your fellow citizens. And the final thing, I just want to send my heartfelt support and prayers and thoughts to Delegate Fennell and former council member Doretha Epps. I know they've had some family challenges, and I haven't been able to speak to them directly, but just our heart, you're in my prayers. And that's everything. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Thank you so much for that. Appreciate it. Okay. Thanks for all your great input. And so I guess I'll give you a little report myself. Seems like it's been forever because it was the holidays, right? So you guys had an election, and then I forgot, Councilmember Mendoza.
No, it's
oh
okay.
My gosh.
No. this happens. This happens to my ward report all the time. It's like from Ward 1 all the way to Ward 3. Like everybody's covered everything. So it's awesome. But all I want to say is just Happy New Year to everyone. And I'm glad that everyone is, whoever is tuning in this evening, thank you. And a big congratulations to my Ward 1, Ward 2, Ward 3 council members. Off the bat, you guys have been awesome. The emailing, just the talking and the powwowing, it's just been awesome. And I'm so happy that we're together. And I know that 2021, we're going to make this. Look, my dad's in the background. He's like, 2021. So we're going to make this happen. Okay. Look, Malik knows my dad. So
Uh-huh.
guys, and Mayor, go ahead. Carry on, Mayor.
Thank you. Thank you for that, Miss Mayor Pro Tem. Appreciate it. So getting back to the holiday and all, it's been like really busy. It's just that time just is moving so quickly. It's hard to keep track at this point. Like I can't even believe that it's the 12th of January already. It was just January. It was just New Year's, right? I think the news cycle is what's making everything move so quickly. Is it just, the world just keeps getting crazier and crazier and crazier. But anyway, so I'll just talk about a couple of things that we're working on. And Mr. Baton can elaborate on a couple of these, but we're working on getting our electronic sign. We budgeted for it, and I believe Pepco was in last week, starting to work out the poles that are necessary for it. I mentioned before that Ms. Goodall is working on getting us some electric car charging stations. And we should know a little bit more about that, like by next month, what we can do. We're gonna try to get one right around Newark Road and 40th Avenue, around about the sign area. It depends on Pepco has to tell us what can work and what cannot. We are also working on getting our permeable pavers at 40th and Newark Road in that intersection. I want to say that I am happy that even though it's been difficult for us to do anything with our lot next to the KFC, but we did have a seller. He sold some trees. He gave us a couple of trees. I really want to thank Public Works and the Garden Club for setting up the tree. The tree looks so beautiful in the little triangle on Newark Road. And first time we've ever put one up, and I was happy to see it. We had one here at the town hall. So that was really nice to have. We gave out about $4,000 in Visa gift cards from our census raffle. I want to really thank Councilmember Bowles for sharing everybody on really well the whole time that we were going through it. But people were so happy when they came to get this money. It was great. And it was I'm so glad that it was after Christmas, where people have already exhausted whatever, so they really appreciated getting more. But in addition to that, we were able to give out another $3,000 worth of food grocery stores, which you guys participated in. And I want to thank you all for your participation in getting those certificates out to people. You also may be aware that I'm in the middle of a home insecure drive for those with home insecurities. I want to thank everybody. We've got a nice little set of packages over here I'm looking at on the other side of the room of people who have sent in from the Amazon list packages. Hopefully the end of this week or early next week, we'll start to separate them, sort them out, and then start to reach out to the community of those with home insecurities. And I want to continue to do this throughout the year because, you might need socks now, but you're going to need socks later. And the same thing with other things that the homeless need. I was authorized by one of our donors who gave us $1,000 at Christmas to use half of that money for the home insecure. So once I look at what's been sent to us, then I will decide what else we need to get in order to fulfill the things that they need on the street. Oh, I mean, we really had a great time during the Christmas season. Even with the pandemic, we had a puppet show that we had for the kids, and we also sponsored another puppet show through Roger Heights. The gingerbread house designed is super well, and we had some great participation. We recorded over 60 participants with the gingerbread house. And then we were able to give out gifts to absolutely every family who wanted it for their children, and with a little bit left over. So everybody who wanted something got something. And I'm really so happy that the staff has done an excellent job of really just keeping things going, even in the middle of this pandemic and so forth. So one of the things I do want to bring to y'all's attention, because it's probably going to create some problems. So you all know about plastic bags in recycling is a big no. They cannot handle it. The machines can't handle it. And for a long time, Bates has been threatening to not take our recycling if they're in plastic bags. We have put out numerous statements that Bates will not take it if it's in a plastic bag. We come back, we even did text messages like a couple of weeks ago when we heard again, okay, they're really going to stop. So they haven't stopped. And so it's problematic that we keep telling them that they're going to stop and they don't stop. So that means that people think, well, whatever we're saying just is nothing, right? Doesn't mean anything. So I called the supervisor yesterday and told him, I said, you know, if you're going to stop, you're going to have to stop, you know, because we can't keep telling people that this is, and then your people just keep picking them up. And he seemed to be unaware that they were still picking up everything, but they've still been picking up everything as of Friday. So he told me that he's going to talk to the crew that comes in here and they are going to stop. So if that's going to happen, and I'll have the guy send out another text message again saying it will stop. If you do not, if you have plastic bags in your bags, they're going to stop taking them. So you might expect that you might get some calls or some confusion, or, you know, some people who are going to be upset because I do drive around. I've been looking and checking it every Friday to see what's happening. And there are lots of people who are still putting plastic bags in their trash. So the only rude awakening will be when they're recycling. The only rude awakening is when it doesn't get picked up. And they're going to be upset for a minute, but it's just the way it is. I think that we've done a lot to forewarn them on that. And so if you have any ways of getting that information out to your people, you know, also take your opportunity to just let them know. Probably this Friday, it's not getting picked up. Got plastic in there.
Yeah, I just want to add that, you know, some of the people may not be getting those messages, and since we stopped doing the newsletter, they may be just unaware. And I've noticed some of the houses were cited, and there no, I believe it says no plastic bags allowed, but I'm not sure if it all offers them the alternative on that citation ticket, because I know when generally on our website it does say leave them loose, so that's the alternative. I'm not sure if there's any solution offered in that citation, and so people who are unaware, they don't get the messages, they don't get any newsletter, they're disconnected. They just get the citation. It says no plastic bags, but what's the alternative? That's one thing. Another thing is, I think initially plastic bag, at least like to some people may mean like grocery bag, may not necessarily mean like the trash bag that you put trash bag. I know we've sent out the campaign saying no trash of bags of any kind, of no at all. But again, those who have not gotten those messages, maybe we need some other reminder.
Well, I will send you, as I meant to work on it earlier, but I will get you guys the list of the addresses that we don't have emails for. So you can go directly to them. But I will say that beyond just doing emails or whatever, we actually have done door knockers and everything on this whole trash thing. I mean, where it's really gone to everybody's house. And then, and the chief can talk a little bit more, but our code enforcement guy has actually put some personal effort into reaching people who are having the problem. I've had a person who I just said directly, I just, walking up to them and I says, you can't put plastic in the bag. And they're like, what? I'm like, you can't put plastic inside the recycling. And they waved me off. They were like, you don't know what you're talking about. And so I think some people just don't believe that it's a real thing. But anyway, we'll put some more effort into it. I will get you those lists, those addresses, so that, you can, it's not that many. Our list, we are like 75 houses short of having contact with the 400 houses in town. We have 425 houses and we're short probably at 75 or 80 houses.
And that's another thing that maybe I would like to talk to, because there are a lot of new people in town, at least in my ward. And today I talked to a person who said he just moved 2 years ago. And I know I remember we sent out that information, that survey that we asked people to complete. And I believe it might have been 2 years ago. So he might have just missed that time. So I think we need to do that in some circular, repeated motion, send it out if you want to get on the, yes.
Well, I am planning to do a state of the town, which I normally do at the end of January or within the January state of the town, to just talk about all the things that are going on. So you will have that piece of paper come before the end of this month. That will be something physical to take out to people.
Mayor, can I be recognized for a question?
Yes, sir.
So two little things. One, I had a very odd thing happen with my trash this week, and I don't know what it was about. Do we have first of all, they rejected one of my trash bags. They took it out of my trash can and put it on the ground and wouldn't take it. Inside of it was a fake garland that was lit. It was a lighted garland that I've had for 15 years, and the lights are all dead. So I balled it up and put it in the trash can. And I couldn't figure out why they left it, but David said, well, maybe they thought that it was yard trash. So is there something against people putting yard trash in our regular trash? Will they reject that as well? And then the second question I have is, some houses have a great, are you all able to hear me?
I can hear you.
Sorry,
Yes.
my computer just tried to update something and you all disappeared. I will try to see you, but if you can hear me, some of the houses are also putting large amounts of recycling out. And so they don't have room in their carts. And it seems to me their way of handling that is to put it outside the cart, but in a trash bag. How should a house address that issue if they have a huge amount?
So with trash, the ordinance is specific about the fact that trash should be in an enclosed facility, closed in, right? And that is in the ordinance. I feel like, and this is something that we can talk about, look at it more closely or whatever, but I don't feel like recycling is that well documented in the ordinance that we have on refuge. And because it was intended that it would be open, like the little yellow baskets that we used to have in the county, where you just put your recycling in those little things, it doesn't follow the same rules of it being in an enclosed area. The idea, I guess, is that the recycling doesn't need to be in an enclosed area. But we are, in the position of looking at what might work best. So if you have ideas of what's the best way to do it, now we have given a second bin to whether trash or recycling to large families. And I've left it up to the council members to make the decision. If you feel there's a family in town, this family needs more, that we will make the more available to them. So we're not just randomly giving it out. It's somebody you are aware needs help. And that's been the case since we first started. We ordered some more trash cans. We're the ones that provided the trash cans, the big dark green ones. But Bates is the one that provides the recycling bins. And I'm sure if we ask them for a couple of more, we say we need, some large, that I'm sure they will probably accommodate us and give us a couple of more. Especially if we start following the rules, because if we start following the rules, they make money off of our recycling. So they want us to recycle more. They just want us to recycle correctly, because if we don't recycle correctly, they have to put it into the dump, and that costs them money. So for the purpose of answering your question, if someone needs another bin in that relationship, that's the answer I would have. If somebody you see consistently has that much more. But also, people don't break down their boxes and things like that, which makes it more than it should be, because it just causes it to be more. But I'm just saying, let's stick with it. Let's see where this one goes with this. If you know somebody who you feel consistently really needs some more recycling, check in and have the town call, have the administrative office call, and see if Bates can get us some more trash, recycle bins.
And so on my first question, if they do put yard trash in a trash bag.
Oh, your first question. Yeah, I kind of think that it is something that they're trying to tap down on too. Our yard waste is supposed to go in paper bags. It's a county thing, so it's like a law. And it's all about not having yard waste go in the trash, just like not having recycling go in the trash.
This was just kind of funny because it's metal and plastic. It's not actually, they misunderstood what it was.
They misunderstood. I'm just going to say they just thought it was, and they were trying to be particular.
Yeah. It's the first time that had ever happened. I'd ever had a trash bag rejected.
But that is probably exactly what it is that, they thought that it was yard waste, and they were trying to, they didn't realize it was fake. So maybe if you're going to throw it back out again, just put a note on saying, this is not real.
Fake tree.
Fake tree. Yes, exactly. That's funny though. Okay, anybody else have any other questions? Okay, so I'm going to move on to the treasurer's report, and that should be in your package. Mr. Baden.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, everyone. To help out those who do not have the packet, council members should have it. I am going to try to screen share it here so that everyone could follow along as well. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on it tonight. We did go into quite a lot of detail in the November report. The December report includes 1 month more of data. So I'll mainly touch on the highlights, but also when you're reviewing the report, as the mayor pointed out the last meeting, we're 6 months in. So, the percentage of budget should usually be expended around 50% for those items that are either earned or paid out evenly during the year. As we pointed out before, not every revenue or expense falls in that category, but just kind of keep that in mind, that the percentages, especially on the expense side, should usually range around 50%, seeing we're 6 months into the current fiscal year. So starting out on the revenue side, you can see we have total revenue for the 6 months of $794,922. One of our largest revenue sources I pointed out is real property taxes at $689,000. We will be receiving most of that outstanding of $309,000 this week. Haven't seen the remittance yet, but it will probably be close to the high 200s for that item. Personal property tax is running under budget on paper, but the county has not sent out, or not the county, the state has not sent out the certifications for some of the larger properties. And from what I understand, the tax office is lagging behind due to staffing and COVID. Our utilities that we, such as Pepco, Washington Gas, Those utilities, we get a large amount of personal property tax revenue for, and they're not reflected here because we've not gotten their certifications yet. So, I think we'll be okay, by the end of the year, but it is lagging behind due to COVID. Then if you jump down here to the red light camera violations, as I pointed out before, we got about $4,000 more in December, but our 6-month total is $26,000 against $130,000 budget. Obviously not where we want it to be. On the expense side, we have total general government expenditures. You see all the different categories here, totaling $169,000. Nothing really out of the ordinary. Most of our normal expenses, payroll taxes and benefits of $53,000, senior van operations of $18,000. We did start operating back to 5 days a week now. We have 2 of our drivers working. Originally we had 3. Now we have 1 working 4 days a week and the second one working on Wednesdays. But we weren't operating at full capacity, so the expenditures, as you could see, $18,000 versus $58,000, is below budget. But that should start picking up some as we move forward into 2021. Code enforcement, we get billed from Cottage City for the code enforcement officers. I don't recall seeing the December bill yet. So I think this figure here really only reflects through November, but $19,000 out of $40,000 budgeted. Public Works, $123,828 out of $272,000. Minimize that so I can see on the side there. So about 45% spent on the Public Works. Community Center Town Hall, these are all mainly the maintenance of the Community Center Town Hall. $155,000 out of $328, about 47% expended. Under Public Safety, $172,000 out of $462, so running under budget there. Community Center Operations, these are mainly the recreational programs. Obviously, building's not open, so that is considerably under budget, which helps us in the fact that our revenue for hall rentals and things like that help fund the recreational activities are not being realized either. COVID-19 expenses, I touched on those last time, $46,582. That is now behind us at this point. That all had to be expended by the 15th of December, which we did. Total expenditures were $778,000. If you deduct that from the revenue that we had, we currently are operating at a $16,000 surplus. Not sure if I can, let me see. There we go. Balance sheet, cash in the SunTrust accounts, $121,000. Cash in the investment account, $773,000. We have some other, small assets and liabilities that we touched on last time. So that's it for the report. I do want to mention one item that no one had mentioned in their reports, and the mayor, and I'm not sure if she's been aware of this, but the Port Town quarterly meeting, as you know, we're part of the Port Towns with Cottage City, Bladensburg, and Edmonton. They're having their quarterly meeting of the 4 towns on Monday, January 25th, 6 p.m. It will be a virtual meeting. They haven't sent out the link to that yet, but if you all are interested, usually it's in person. Obviously, the last one I think was in September. So we haven't had one in 4 months. Bladensburg's hosting it. So they'll be sending out the meeting invitation, but you're all welcome to join, see what the 3 towns or 4 towns are doing together. And that is again Monday, January 25th at 6 p.m. So that is all I have.
All right, Mr. Baden. Is there anybody have any questions for Mr. Baden?
No, ma'am. Thank you, Mr. Bailey.
You're welcome.
Okay, thank you. I'm curious about something here on the, well, I can save this for the chief. Chief about this. So I'm just going to point out on his balance sheet, these couple of negative numbers under the liabilities. You can look into why that's happening. Appreciate that.
Sure.
All right, is there a motion to accept the treasurer's report?
I'll make that motion to accept the treasurer's report.
Okay, and is there a second?
I'll second the motion.
Okay. All right. Properly motion and second. Is there any discussion? Okay, I'll call for a vote. Ward 1. Ward 1. Councilmember Hardy.
Sorry, yes.
Say aye or
No.
nay.
I said aye.
Aye, okay.
Aye.
Ward 2, aye. Ward 3,
Aye.
Ward 4. Unmute.
Think she is.
And she's muted.
Not on my end.
Unmute. Yeah, on mine, it is muted.
She's muted.
Yeah, there
So
you go.
I said aye.
You said
Okay.
aye for Ward 2, so aye.
Oh, okay. That's the thing about virtual. Okay, and the mayor votes aye. Thank you all very much. I will just note, as you guys will notice, when with these reports, rather than approve, and you'll see some places where they'll offer a motion to approve the report. I do accept the report because we're accepting the report, but only an auditor can really approve the report. So, especially when it's with the financial record. So that's the reason why I say accept instead of approve, because we're going by what our treasurer has offered us, and we can accept it. But at the end of the day, we have an audit every year, and then everyone says that it's all in good shape. Okay, moving on. Thank you, Mr. Baton. Next item here is police report. Chief?
Good evening, everyone. If I can figure out this sharing the screen thing, we will do that. All right. Doing the overview or December police report, and I'll also finish up with an overview of 2020 and go over some of the activities we had during the month. For the month of December, we had 81 incidents or calls for service. Most of those are incidents where someone calls the police. A portion of those are officer initiated, such as traffic stops, suspicious persons, and things of that nature. We had 81 for December. That compares to 91 for the month of November. So it's gone down a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
For police reports written during the month, we had a total of 5, which compares to 19 for November. So went down rather significantly. That included a death report. There was a patient at a medical facility had a medical incident and passed away, as in the 4100 block of Bladensburg Road. We have a traffic stop that resulted in a police report. 2 thefts, both shopliftings at the CVS, and 1 theft from auto. Theft from autos in town, which I'll address later on in the report, have gone down substantially since the beginning of the year. Most of those are in the Port Town Shopping Center. This one occurred on a Sunday afternoon at the church in the 4300 block of Bladensburg Road. There were 6 reportable traffic accidents during the month in the town. When I say reportable, there may have been a few more. Most of the accidents are not reportable in that they not significant damage and no injury, and they just exchange information. There were 6 where reports were written that could be a result of a couple of hit and runs. Some of them had significant damage. No serious injury out of all of these. And 5 of the 6 involved the shopping center or Bladensburg Road. Only 1 occurred in town. And traffic enforcement, we had 12 traffic stops resulting in 28 violations. And the violations, anything from a citation that requires court appearance or payment to a warning to repair order. And since COVID-19 has been an issue, and that's for the whole year, we haven't been doing too much as far as activities with the community, except that we've had our food distributions, which has scaled back somewhat in recent weeks. I'm not quite sure when that's going to continue. But during the month of December, when we did assist with food distribution at Town Hall and to homes, we had a program where we delivered 100 hot meals to residents and the homeless in the town, and also just people with special needs in town. The officers assisted with toy drive here at Town Hall. For the last several years, Colmar Manor Police Department has participated in Santa with a Badge, where they've taken a number of children, usually about 5, and they go shopping and then they go to lunch. We did that this year. We kind of did it virtually. We issued gift certificates and assisted them shopping online. So that was 5 young people in town participated with that. And if you do need some assistance, you can contact Renee here at Town Hall, and she can connect you with food opportunities. I think the mayor mentioned that there was the food gift certificates. In addition to going to the homes in town, this year we gave a number of them, I think it was like $500 worth, to the officers who delivered them to homeless people, but not just homeless people, people with special needs in town. And they very much appreciated that, and they put them to use. So the officers told me they take them and go, they were mostly for Compare Food, so they go right to Compare Foods and get what they needed. For code enforcement, there's a thing in here on when the waste collection days are. Very important. We've discussed that a number of times tonight. For actual enforcement, there's a list here of the enforcement activities. A lot of it does involve trash. There was 2 incidents of construction without a permit. Stop work orders were placed on those, and counties following up with that. Moving forward, there'll be more of an emphasis on issues in the town, including disabled or inoperable vehicles on properties, trash on properties, and things along those lines. So we'll pick up the pace on that. And there's a mention in here about those doggone plastic bags and recycling. That I looked up when we started putting notices out on that, it was 5 years ago that they said no plastic bags. And I think for 5 years we've said they're not going to pick the trash up, but that has continued. They have tightened up a little bit. The last recycle day, the code enforcement officer called me and said, it's going to be a mess. They're not going to pick these up, but they still picked all but 1 that I'm aware of up. But I think that really to get the message across is just to not pick them up, and a couple times of that, it'll improve, I hope. For the year of 2020, just go over a few things there. 2020 started out in the town of Colmar Manor, public safety wise, kind of a lonely place. There was in January of 2020, we were down to oversight by a captain from Prince George's County and the police clerk. I came on board in February, and since then we've staffed the police department with 3 experienced police officers and code enforcement. Code enforcement is shared with the town of Cottage City. And hopefully everyone's noticed a lot of patrols in town. For the calls and crimes in the town for the year of 2020, there were 69 Part 1 offenses. Part 1 offenses are the more serious, from your robberies, homicides, thefts. It does not include things like vandalism, disorderly conduct, things of that nature. 69 for the year. That compares to 62 from 2019. It's up slightly, but is up mostly due to theft from autos. Theft from autos were kind of off the chain in the beginning of the year, and it's gone down and hopefully is improving. I'll touch upon the more serious incidents during the year, from the assaults through the robbery, but there's a number of thefts. I won't get into those too much. For the assaults, there were two, one at Eden Pets and one in the residential area. Neither of those involved serious injury. In one at the business, it was kind of a customer dispute that got a little bit physical, but again, no serious injury. But the suspect fled before police arrived. There was no arrest in that. And in the one in the residential area, it was a threat of a knife and a baseball bat. None were ever confirmed, and there were no injuries. 3 burglaries reported during the year. 2 at China Express, one in January, one in February, and one at Charbroiled Chicken, all in the Port Town Shopping Center, and that was in May. We did have 1 homicide during the year, I'm sorry. That was in September. That was at the gazebo at the bottom of 37th Avenue. There was an arrest made in that. And what is really like to emphasize every time I talk about that incident is that there was an arrest made within 24 hours, and that arrest was a result of one of our officers actually speaking to both parties involved about a half hour before it, and knew who they were, talked to them, and was able to once the incident occurred, was able to identify the suspect, who was no longer on the scene, but the arrest was made, and that person is currently incarcerated awaiting trial. 1 stolen vehicle during the year that occurred at the IHOP, but was recovered the next day at Taco Bell. I don't know the story behind the whole thing. No arrest, but that vehicle was recovered. That was in January. 2 robberies during the year. One was at CVS, which was an armed robbery, no injuries, and that was investigated by Prince George's County Police, and 2 arrests were eventually made. They were involved in the robberies of a number of CVSs throughout the region. And there was a citizen robbery reported in July, 4300 block of Newark Road, where property was taken by force. There was no injuries, and an arrest was not made in that. That's an overview of the more serious crime reported in the town during the year. I touched upon the toy drive and the gift certificates. And let's see. During 2020, there was a number of incidents throughout the nations, most notably the killing of unarmed Black citizens, which brought attention to police training and community relations. Our general orders were reviewed and found to be in compliance with federal and state guidelines. Each officer has attended the mandatory in-service training during the year, and each officer, including myself, attended implicit bias training. And all officers have been issued body-worn cameras. The implicit bias training and the cameras were made possible through our insurer, legit local insurance government trust, where the training was free, and the cameras we received a grant from them for just over $3,000 for their purchase. That's my report for the month and for the year.
Well, thank you very much, Chief, and thank you for that review of the year. I'm sure that the council appreciates hearing that summary as well.
Mayor, I have a question.
Okay.
Incident of suicide attempt this month, and I wonder if the chief knows anything about it. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I will look into that further.
Can I put a pin? Can I put a pin on you? Okay.
Sorry.
I'm going to ask for a motion to accept the report and a second, and then after that, we'll have any discussion you want to. Okay. Is there a motion?
I'll make that motion to accept the chief's report.
Okay. Is there a second?
I'll second that motion.
Who is that?
Malik, Councilman Harder.
Harding? Okay, there's a motion and a second. Okay, any discussion at all, Councilmember Hobbs?
Yes, just noticed, looking over the report, Chief, there was an attempt, a suicide, I believe. Do you know anything about that person? And overall, what does the police do if if that person is receiving some mental support, health counseling, anything, you know?
I will look in further into that particular incident. I'm not just not it's not come to mind. That list on the first page is when someone calls in for the police department, and that can be kind of anything. And on here, I just don't see if I remember seeing it earlier, but it was a combined call with fire department and ambulance responding, and they automatically send the police.
Mhm.
And whatever that was did not result in a police report. So it was not a suicide. It was not, they didn't go as far as to an attempt. Often that is a call where I think maybe my friend's having difficulties. Can you go check on them? And they enter it in as that type of call. So what you see in the longer list is how the call was received. Out of all those calls, those 81 calls there, it resulted in 5 reports for the month. So it wasn't, it was resolved, but I will find out the more detail for you in contact, but it was not a suicide or an actual attempt.
All right, yeah, thank you. I was just, concerned for that. Yeah, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Anybody else have any other thoughts, discussions?
Chief, Mayor, may I be
Calls?
recognized? Thank you. I have a few questions. Actually, I would make appeal again. I've been running like crazy trying to catch up on how the town functions. So, Chief, if there's a chance, what Mr. Baden did for us, what Mr. Barr has offered to do with that for us, but which we haven't had a chance to do yet, if we can sit down at some point and just have like a elementary school welcome, here's how it works.
Certainly.
So I have some questions for you that just may be elementary, but they will help me understand the form that I'm looking at. One of the questions is a general one, and that is, with regard to the crime that's happening in the town, what percentage of it is being committed by residents and what percentage is being committed by exterior forces? Do we have an understanding of that?
I'll have to look into it. I want to, going back, I said the arrests that we made are probably very local. That's probably, I'd say maybe half and half. Those that are, say, your disorderly conduct, your open alcohol are local. We've had a number of thefts with arrests at, say, CVS and Compare, and those are not local.
Got you. Then there are a couple of terms on the form that I don't understand.
Yep.
We have animal complaint followed by animal complaint combined. Can you help me understand what combined means? I mean, I understand what the word means, but
that's a very good question. The combined, which you'll notice it on a couple of these things, are when there's a fire, when an ambulance or fire is called. Combined is a combined police and fire call.
Ah.
Good
Thank
question.
You. That is, thank you. What is the difference between a domestic dispute and a family dispute?
That's another good question. I'd say there's synonyms, and it really dependent upon the call taker and how they put them in. I'd say they're pretty much the same thing.
We often hear the term domestic abuse, and sometimes that's with regard to spousal mistreatment. I didn't know if that was what that meant there, and a family was someone other than spouses, but so it can be either.
It could be either, and these are the way this list is the calls for service. This is when a person calls in and the call taker listens to what's going on and then puts it in. So it's not 100%. Like Councilwoman Hobbs mentioned, the suicide turns out not to be that, but it was investigated as that initially.
I see. Thank you. You have overdose ALS combined. What is ALS?
Combined is the fire department. ALS, I believe, is advanced life support and ambulance.
Ah, okay.
You give me some good test questions here. I like
Well,
it.
I'm
know.
a baby, like I'm a baby like person here who's learning all this stuff. It might be helpful to some of our citizens too, who like me are not police people. Then we have a category called disorderly, and then we have like if we have like let's say we have a loud party and there's disorderly behavior, and you get calls both for noise and disorderly behavior, how does that get logged?
It would probably go down in disorderly, but again, it is really the call taker who makes that decision.
So it is potentially the case that some noise complaints may be swallowed up in a disorderly number.
Yes, and sometimes like disorderlies, I think it says 8 on here.
Yes.
I would say that, and just not knowing the circumstances behind these offhand, that some of those are probably, hey, there's a guy hanging out in front of my business, and that goes into disorderly. And is that really a disorderly, or is that a trespasser? So that it could be either, and then that call taker say, okay, you've got a trespasser, so that could go either way in front of categorizing it initially.
I see. Okay. I will probably leave you be at that because I don't want to hold these proceedings up anymore, but I have a million other questions. So may I contact you with a million questions?
Certainly. Anytime.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone
Mayor.
else? You're welcome.
No, thank you. Thank you very much, Chief, for your report.
You're welcome.
So I wanted to ask about the armed person. Was that a local person or somebody outside?
That
of town?
was a call for an armed person, but it was not confirmed. And again, I'll pull the circumstances on that. But some of these, if you call in and say, I think they might have a gun, or if there's something, they've got a bulge or something, they put it in as an armed person dispatch. But at the end of the day, it was not an armed person.
And is that the same situation with the gunshots?
Gunshots was probably just the sound of shots this time.
Okay.
And that might be, well, this is a December, that I'd have to look at the date. It might be New Year's related, but I'm not certain offhand.
Okay. Well, from a report perspective, I would call for a vote unless there's someone else in the additional discussion. Ward 1,
Aye.
Ward 2,
Sorry, what are we voting on?
accepting the police report.
We already accepted it, right? And then we went to questions, or,
We had the motion and a second. So we do a motion and then a second, and we have discussion, and then we'll call for the vote.
okay, thank you for clarifying that. Okay, aye.
Ward 3,
Aye.
Ward 4.
Aye.
All right, mayor votes aye. Thank you, Chief, for the report. I have a couple of separate questions for you. When I looked at the budget, I noticed that under background checks, it's 0. I mean, I thought that some of that would have been.
All of those expenses occurred in the prior fiscal year.
Oh, they did. So,
yeah,
okay.
I came on, and yes, everything was prior fiscal year. So barring
Everybody got hired up and everything before the end of June.
the testing occurred prior to the fiscal year. So all the expenses, just a little bit of background on those expenses, the background expenses with hiring someone. It's quite expensive to hire a police officer. Have to go through psychological exam, physical exam, polygraph, and they total $3,000, $3,000 or $4,000 each. All of that occurred in the prior fiscal year. But you'll notice that some of the uniform expenses are in there. The uniforms came in after the fiscal year, so that.
Okay. So do we anticipate costs out of this line item this fiscal year?
Out of the background, barring any vacancies, no. Knock on.
Okay.
Knock on, yeah.
Knock on wood, right?
Yeah, knock on wood, yes.
Okay, so a separate question is on your other job as media man. The camera upgrade for in this hall, is that being actively moved forward?
It's moving forward, but not very actively. And there's a holdup with Comcast, from my understanding, with speaking with Rick. So that's he and I discussed it tonight. So we've got to get it moving.
Okay, yes, can we please get it moving?
Yes.
You know, because when we do open up again, I want to be able to be super live like we're supposed to. And then a question, do you want to, you spoke to me about a maintenance on the vehicle. Do you want to add that to the business tonight?
I think I'll discuss it further with Dan tomorrow. Just give a background on it. We have 4 police officers and 5 cars. The 5th one is kind of a spare, and that needs some significant repairs. And I can speak with it to Dan tomorrow, and if it will need be, we'll bring it up at the work session if we have to further.
Okay, all right. So we'll look at that work session for that. All right, well, thank you, Chief. Appreciate it very much.
You're welcome.
Okay, the next item, which is approval of minutes. We don't currently have any minutes to approve. And so I will go to the committee reports. And as far as a senior report, you know, our seniors haven't been meeting. We are open, the bus is running, as Mr. Bain indicated. So we are taking them to their shopping needs and things like that. Ms. Renee is in constant contact with the seniors to see what their status are and things that they need and so forth. And so that's where we are. I understand that we lost a senior, is it this week or the end of last week off of, was it 39th Street, Chief?
Yeah, 3900 block of Newton. And I spoke with Renee about it. I had not made deliveries there, so I'm not sure.
He was active on our list.
You're right. Yeah, I don't think he was. Yes.
Okay, well, we condolences to his family. We'll get something out to the household to offer that concern. And but natural causes is what we understand.
Yes.
And so, is there a garden club report? And while I'm thinking about the garden club, I just really want to thank, I didn't say Left Hands for a Warm Heart for putting out about 100 meals that they put out on Christmas Day to the homeless. And as usual, appreciate them doing that. I haven't been attached to what's going on with the garden club right now. So Councilmember Mendoza, do you know anything?
No, but I just want to just chime in on what you said about giving the this past Christmas to the warm meals for the homeless. You know, I went to the town hall on Christmas Day, and yes, it was awesome to just see everything that was there and displayed, and then just kudos to all that were involved with everything going with is it left
Left Hand for a Warm Heart, I believe. I always get it wrong.
yeah.
Left Hand for a Warm Heart.
Thank you.
Thank you. And that would be for Taretha and Doretha Epps. And I also want to offer concern or our prayers that Grandma Maz is doing better soon.
Yes,
And,
of course.
yes, for her and Delegate Fennell. And so our next one is the Green Team. Depending on you, Councilmember Hobbs, you know what's going on? Are we going to have any meetings soon?
So I'm not sure. I think we should discuss these committees and going like forward, right? Who's chairing them or who will be reporting on them? Because I don't think we have had the discussion. I can definitely say for the Green Team, I've been part of the Green Team in the past year. Well, less so in the past year because of COVID. So I know we had an online meeting since March, but since I believe it was maybe May, but I definitely don't not know. I cannot report on things that happen there.
Okay, that's fine. That's good. But you are correct. As I talked about last week, we need to have a liaison from the council to our different resident groups. And so I still am looking forward to you guys. I might send out a list and then let you pick and choose I know that Councilmember Bowles said that he will be our liaison for Neighborhood Watch.
Can
and
we
then-
possibly have like a short description of these committees, maybe like now verbally, and then we can maybe decide which ones we join, and is there a number or a limit to how many we should join? That's my other question.
There's nothing official.
Okay.
At all. You can be a part of all of them.
I see,
it's
but
just-
I would like
It's
to
just
see.
making a decision of which one we can get reported out from.
Right. So I'm more or less familiar with like the garden club, the green team, but I'm not sure about like the mission or the events or other activities that other committees are doing, and I would like to hear about them. And then make a decision, maybe which ones to join, and maybe potentially, as it was already brought up, about the Entrepreneurship Committee. So that's another thing I'm interested in doing. I mentioned that when I was running. So potentially bring another committee. So yes, I would like just to hear maybe a brief description of and what they do, these committees.
Well, I can certainly offer some level of them, although they really are organic, and we just kind of set them up, and hopefully we can get residents to participate. It is really hard to get residents to participate in these things, and sometimes we can go to the point of just like giving up on them and just kind of let them. But I've been really trying to continue to push and push and push. We were doing really good with the Recreation Council. And Reese, what is Reese's last name? Reese, what's his last name?
Kearns.
Kearns, right. Yeah, it was great when she stepped in and really started to pull things together as a resident and bringing other residents into the fold and things like that. And as you know, Councilmember Hobbs, how we were doing really well with the green team. Garden Club COPED has stuck its foot into a whole lot of things, But from a general definition, I can just say what I think they are, but they can be whatever the residents really want to make of it in expanding some unity and bringing people together in different areas. So we'll see what everybody wants to do. All right.
Mayor, may I ask a question? The recreation report, do they liaison with Miss Renee? How does that work? Okay.
Yes.
So Miss Renee does not give that. She's not the chair of the recreation committee. She's our recreation coordinator.
She's right. She's an employee, and we didn't even have that position before this building got built. So as the employee, it gives that particular club some capacity because she's on site in order to get things done. Back when my kids were little, we had to do everything ourselves when I wasn't on the council.
So far, council members, I've taken the ranks of recreation council, but I need you guys' help on this.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. Just to be the liaison doesn't mean that you're like in charge of it all. You're just there to kind of help us be a part of it, connected with the employees and things like that as well. So thank you for that, Councilmember Mendoza. Appreciate that. So we can keep that moving forward. And we did have some discussion about Black History Month. So it would be great if you can set up a meeting to see who wants to be involved. Maybe we can still be involved, and or whomever, Ronnie, or some of the guys, people that we had before, to get a meeting together so that we can try to plan something. That'd be great. And I know that Councilmember Bowles had some ideas too. So.
I know that it's not listed here, Mayor, but is the neighborhood watch usually listed with these?
Yeah,
Yeah, it should be.
yeah, it should be.
Well, I can give you guys a really quick thumbnail. We haven't done a lot yet, but I have been in touch with former council member Blue. We've had some informal conversations. I've met with 2 out of 3 of our police officers, Officer Cowling and Officer Merritt, both of whom are lovely people. And we had some really great informal conversations about what's going on around the town. Former council member Blue and I will be setting up a meeting with Chief Tracy soon. And after we meet with him and get his overview, then we'll meet with all of the police, and then we'll start the meetings up again, probably virtually for now. And they will always be open to any citizens who would like to come. They'll be monthly. And again, that's TBA right now, but these are the plans that we formulated, at least at this point. So that's my report for this meeting.
That is great. Thank you for that report.
If I may, Mayor, this is
Yes.
Councilman Harding.
Councilmember Harding.
I have a small piece as well. I reached out to Anacostia Watershed Society, as you all, well, you may not know. Jim Foster stepped down from CEO position of Anacostia Watershed, and the temporary replacing president is a woman named Erin Borgeson Castelli. I don't want to pronounce her last name wrong, but we've set up a meeting for January 27th between me, Reverend Addison, the director of river restoration, as well as Miss Castelli. And we're just gonna have a short but deep overview of their plans for this year and how we can kind of attach ourselves to help them get towards those enhancements and things. So I look forward to giving you guys an update on February.
Thank you. Thank you. That's awesome. And whatever groups you guys do get involved in, we'll just add them onto the committee reports just to hear back what's going on in those groups. So right now, like the Port Town CDC used to be on here. It's not, because we just haven't had any activity happening from it. So once we've got activity going, we can always add to those reports. And so Councilmember Mendoza, do we have anything happening at PGCMA?
Yes, so I have all of you guys, because I am the secretary for PGCMA this term. So I have everybody's information. So you're going to get information about our next meeting, which will be, it's always the 3rd Thursday of the month. And so far what's going on is there've been some replacements going on within the cabinet. So we're looking at Michael Jackson, Delegate Michael Jackson, to replace Mike Miller, which was the Senate president for a number of years. And to replace Michael Jackson would be Rachel Jones. So I know it's a lot going on within the whole thing, but you guys will, when you guys get into the meeting, you'll be more up to date with everything. But I will email you guys, I promise. Because I'm looking at Doug. Doug's like, what the heck is going on?
Well, no, what's going through my head is I'm being a good little doobie, and I'm trying to study all the legalities of who we are and what we are. And I just had the question. I know I'm trying to take that course on Open Meetings Act. We do not represent the town on these groups, right? I'm not Doug Bowles.
No.
I'm just Doug Bowles.
No, you don't have to join PGCMA. It's totally up to you.
No, that's not my question. My question is, I'm not in my official capacity as a representative of the town. To me, that would represent a conflict of interest. So if I'm on a board, I'm just Doug Bowles. I'm not Doug Bowles, council member, Ward 3, Colmar Manor.
Yeah, for PGCMA, yes, you are.
I am, but for the others, any other board that you're on, we don't use our identity here, correct?
No, you do, absolutely.
Yeah, so, I mean,
Okay.
if you're, so like, okay, I was on the AWS board for quite a while. On AWS board, I am Sidar Barrow. I am not the council member for the town of Colmar Manor, or mayor, if you will. When I was on the Port Town CDC, I was a council member of the town of Colmar Manor. And so it depends on, so when I was on the ATHA board, I was the council member of Colmar Manor, because ATHA is designated to be an organization of towns. And so it's the towns on the Route 1 corridor. Because it's towns, if you're in there, that's who you're representing, is your town. On the Port Town CDC, the charter of that organization states that there'll be members from the municipalities of the 4 port towns included. So when you're on it, you're representing the town. AWS is an independent organization, a nonprofit. End Time Harvest Ministries is an independent organization, a nonprofit, a 501c3. Eco City Farms is their independent organization. So if you're on any of those boards, you are not representing the town in any way. You are who you are. You're your individual self.
So it's based on the structure of the organization then? Okay.
Right.
I'm already a board member of Prince George's Heritage, but I'm not representing Colmar Manor at Prince George's Heritage. I'm just Doug.
That's right. And that's a perfect example.
Okay.
Now, our local in-house committees, we decide we're a liaison. That's who we are. We're a liaison from the ward that you're from, helping that resident committee move things forward.
Gotcha.
And so, yes, you are representing in our local town for those internal things.
Just want to make sure I do everything the right way.
Well, we try, but we all, not all of us can always do it the right way.
Well, no, nobody's perfect, that's for sure.
That's right. Okay, well, thank you for that. Anybody else has any comments there? All right, okay, that's pretty good. So I will open up right now to ask if I have any citizen comments before we go into new business. Do we have anybody, a resident?
Yes, this is Kurt. I have a comment.
Can you go ahead and say your address?
3304 40th Avenue. And
Thank you.
I'll start this by enhancing the police report. There was an assault not counted, but then I didn't file. And that was the night of the Santa drive-through. It was basically me trying to confront somebody with loud music late at night, and then they spat on me, but I didn't file yet. I realized I have a year to file, but I wasn't sure what the consequences was going to be. I was told if you file, nothing really happens, but if this person is an immigrant, they could get deported. And so I have this little report about the name and the rental property at 3311. So that folds into the noise ordinance and how that will be enforced and or measured. I'm just trying to establish a quiet neighborhood since my initiatives to get the train horn signaling addressed. That's 5 years old. And then I know there was an incident with the pets and the police thing. So I complained about an animal, and then they called police who visited my house, but they eventually actually put up a fence, which is good. But except for the cat people who get away with the other week, a cat right on my porch trying to eat the birds. And that's really disturbing to me. And the fact that it hasn't been fixed. And the gunshots. I actually saw between 40th Place and 40th Avenue, a stocky individual casually, after he shoots his gun, I see him get into this white, light-colored sedan and just slowly drive off, and that kind of stopped. That was about 3 weeks ago. Then I was thinking, it's so late at night, can we use traffic cameras to capture these lone motorists when there's an incident like that? I know the other neighbor had called in the gunshots, and so I didn't call it in, either one of them. But with all the cameras, we should be able to get the tag and track them down. So to go off on a positive note, because I always feel like I'm the only one complaining and doing things. Looking forward to the committees, especially the neighborhood watch, the green team. There's a lot of initiatives that we can champion. And so I think there's like to get involved to the extent I can. Any questions?
Thank you. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Please communicate with the chief in relationship to the circumstance you want to report to find out what
I think if I don't file, it's not counted. So I have a year to file, and so I'm on this fence because the spouse doesn't want to inflame the situation, because these people, will park in front of your house and play the music for 45 minutes in retribution because the officers were called in that incident. So in any case, I can speak to the chief or at the advisory. I know the District 1 has a neighborhood advisory council meeting. I don't know if general public's invited, if I should get involved in the local neighborhood watch meetings. I like to get updated when that's going to happen. So that's all.
Chief, do you have anything to add?
No, I'll speak with him for he and I have spoke of a couple of those of his concerns, but not all of those. So we can speak soon about that.
Yeah. And I can say that I know from the Horn situation, I mean, and then the opportunity to move forward, I don't see a path forward with the train horn. So, I mean, it's not something you're waiting for me, because I don't see a path forward, and I think we've shared that. But if you
I did get a form letter that the Edmonston folks had sent to get the initiative going through. So I have a copy of all the pieces they put together. I just don't have a vehicle of, people to drive it through. So, and I'm not sure, if that's, I don't know. There's so many things going on. It's like you have to pick your battles.
That's it. That's the truth. That's very true. All right. But thank you for your comments. Appreciate it always. And is there any other citizen comments?
This is Yolanda Barnett. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. And do your address?
I just want 40. My address is 3605 41st Avenue, and I just wanted to say Happy New Year to all, and to welcome all the newly elected officials and the return of Ms. Mendoza also, and hope that as we move forward with hopefully post-COVID, that the town can get back to doing what we need to do. And hopefully, as we have a whole new energetic team, that we can implement and do some of the things that we have envisioned for the town of Colmar Manor. So just welcome all.
Thank you, Ms. Yolanda.
Thank you, as always.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, is there any other comment? Okay, with that said, one thing that I did want to mention when the chief was speaking. So I am concerned about the activities that may transpire in the next week as it pertains to the inauguration. As a border city of Washington, D.C., in the threats of the 50 state, 50 capital attack. I don't know where these things may or may not go, but we are a border city. And I spoke to the chief, because there's been a lot of reference to the War of 1812, Battle of Bladensburg, which is where this is where the battle came through here, right through here. And so, Chief, can you just give everybody an update on just kind of where we may be looking at, just making sure that we're not in harm's way?
Yes, as everybody, we're monitoring we seem to get more from the news than other sources, but going back to the 6th, when the initial incident happened at the Capitol, we were on I'll say heightened alert afterwards. That's all the borderline police departments from Colmar Manor, Cottage City, Mount Rainier, all the way down the line. And we will be, I expect an update from either Office of Emergency Management or the county police or state police soon as to their activities. But on you have the 20th is the inauguration. And up until then, we'll be monitoring everything and being watchful. The mayor and I did speak regarding the Battle of Bladensburg, War of 1812, where that's you may have heard that the Capitol, last time it was breached was in 1814 as a result after the Battle of Bladensburg. So that's where that ties in. But we are, and I'll release as much as I can. I don't think anything confidential will be coming through, but I'll keep the council informed and the residents as well if it warrants.
All right. Well, thank you for that, Chief. I appreciate it. Anybody have any questions?
Mayor, just like one thing. So, all right, I'm all about Netflix, and so Netflix, there's this show called Bridgerton. I don't know if you guys have watched Bridgerton, but in one of the scenes they do a duel, and when I saw the duel, I was like, oh my goodness, this is Colmar Manor. We are known for dueling, right?
Mm-hmm.
Our town
Yes.
seal is the duel. So, I just need to bring that up. I'm sorry. Okay.
All right. We always need a little bit of liberty, in everything else that's going on right now.
I would vote against reviving that tradition. Let's not revive that one. Let's leave that in the past, please.
That's right. Let's leave that one in the past. Leave that one back there.
You then? I was like, really? Okay.
No, I mean, there have been people who have asked me before, why do you guys have two guns crossed on your seal? Who doesn't know the history of it? Like, that's what it was.
Yeah, I had a mayor who asked me that. He was like, you have two guns on your seal. And I was like, because we're the dueling ground. And then he was like, all right, carry on.
That's it. It's the duel. Okay, so moving on to our last bit of business here. Well, you guys, I sent you, well, you should have your original package or whatever. Our business license. We do not get new businesses that often, which is a great thing because we pretty much stay fully occupied. Even when a business leaves, we pretty much get a replacement pretty quickly. So we do not have that drama of a lot of vacant businesses. And so it's something that we don't necessarily like to stay on top of all the time. And our business license, which you'll see is Article 6 of our code, is probably pretty outdated in so many different ways. I'm introducing this to you now in a form of a conversation for you guys to personally look at it yourselves. And I would love for us to, I will be on our work session agenda for us to talk about what should be our fees, what is the appropriateness of the different items on here. Some things that are on here are not even allowed businesses in our sector plan project. We are looking at, as I spoke to you before, that the area where the convenience store, the car wash is right now, we're looking to put in a gas station. It doesn't seem smart that our license for a gas station is $300. It just creates too much activity and too much going on. So I think there's a lot of revisions that we need to come to in terms of going over this. And I only introduce it to you in this conversation for that purpose, to say, let's make this a conversation in our next meeting. The other thing, which is not here right now, but the other thing that I would like to bring back up is that we did pass the SAP ordinance. And I guess, I mean, the question I hear from the table is, well, what can we do with it? And so I do think that that would be a good thing to do, is to also have a conversation about the noise ordinance and what implementation be appropriate at our next work session. How to implement, because you can write laws all the time, but if you don't have the capability to implement them, you know, it's just like being in the dark. I want to bring back up again a conversation about cameras. I mentioned it a little bit in the last work session, and Councilmember Hobbs mentioned it tonight, and I just think that unless we have cameras, we're not going to be able to stop some bad behavior. So we can talk about that at the next work session as well. So the one item we have in front of our faces right now, and as we mentioned and we talked about this convenience store that opened up, I'm just going to be public about my opinion about the store itself. It is, it's originally to be a tobacco convenience store, DMV, convenience and tobacco. In the county, it rejected tobacco. And I don't know, the chief is working on finding out a little bit more about the rules and regulations about the stores, but apparently the county indicated that they had too many tobacco stores. So if you're not aware, like I know for liquor licenses that the county limits the number of liquor licenses that can be held in the county total, and also for chain establishments, it limits the number of chain establishments and eating places that people can have a liquor license. Presumably a similar thing operates with tobacco. So if this business was turned down for a tobacco license, business license, but then perpetrates a different scenario, because clearly tobacco is clearly seen as the sign in the window, that is this person breaking the intent of what the county had offered them. So number one, the chief is looking into what was the circumstances of the name change and or the type of business that's supposed to be. They are open or giving them a temporary license pending what else we find out going forward. But the number one disturbing or questionable thing that I have in my heart is that there's an intention for them to be a 24-hour store. I will let the chief give you an overview of the challenges that we face with 24-hour stores. Chief.
So thank you. Currently in the town of Colmar Manor, very limited for 24-hour stores, and even more limited since COVID. The only 24-hour operations that I know of are prior to COVID would be IHOP on weekends, Friday night and Saturday night, 24-hour, but they have not been since at least February or March, and I don't see that returning anytime in the near future, but hopefully that will return. They had a serious incident there. I'm trying to find the date, but probably at least 10 years ago, where someone was seriously injured and or killed during business hours in the middle of the night. Since then, they've been required to have a certified police officer during the overnight hours. Our other 24-hour businesses, McDonald's, they're solely a drive-through on the weekends after hours. And not quite 10 years ago, not several years ago, they did have a homicide right outside. And that's the only two 24-hour operations in town. The convenience store, in my opinion, would bring some issues. We don't really have a history, recent history of 24-hour businesses and the problems that come along with it. However, in speaking with local chiefs and other police departments, all that have 24-hour, particularly convenience store operations, have had incidents, mostly along the lines of robberies, disorderly conduct, loitering, and robberies to include coming in and stealing products. A lot of tobacco products get stolen. You see it on TV once in a while. An ATM machine will get it robbed. So I'm concerned about the after hours activities that the convenience store or 24-hour operation of that type may bring. and also the impact that it may have on the neighborhood, whether it's loitering or crime that extends from that. And I guess my biggest concern is we're not a 24-hour police department and generally don't have someone on duty after midnight. So we would not be there to deter anything or investigate anything. So.
Okay, I'm gonna be right back, guys. I need a bio break. I'll be right back.
Chief? Oh, I'm sorry, I guess. I think one thing we need is clarity on what our procedural rules are. I wrote over the weekend and asked whether we were using Robert's rules or whether we were using, if the town had its own. And Mr. Barr gave me personally some clarity, but I didn't copy that to everyone because I wasn't sure whether I could start that conversation legally, read the Open Meetings Act. But our procedural, I think we're experiencing some procedural cloudiness, and it would be helpful for us to know how we are operating. So maybe that's a mayor question, but I just want to voice that because I'm feeling rather stuttery all night tonight because I don't quite know how to function in this world that we have here.
I think probably between the mayor and Mr. Barr, who might be our parliamentarian.
Barr should be able to chime in on that. Mr. Barr.
What is the request, Mayor Pro Tem? What is your request? Sean Barr speaking. Can anybody hear me?
Yes, sir.
What was the request? I'm sorry, I didn't hear it.
Mayor, when you left, I asked the question, I think I wrote you and Kayla over the weekend and asked, what are our procedural rules? Are we using Robert's rules? Or are we using, is there a rules of procedure that's specific to Colmar Manor? Because I think our conversation here is a little stuttery because we're not quite sure what are the rules and frame that we're operating under in these meetings. Could you help?
So, I mean, we've never officially established a set of rules in order. There are some basic rules in elected office that have to be followed. I went and I saw your email, so I was like, I'm gonna go look up Robert rules and see. Robert rules was really written for non-government organizations, but it is the standard bearer. And at the end of the day, we do a motion. Someone has to motion for something to happen. In order for that motion to stay alive, it has to be seconded by someone else. Then everybody's given an opportunity to have discussion about what it is that we are talking about doing. And then you call for a vote. And those who wish to vote, yea or nay, if your motion or the second, you do not have to vote yes. The motion and the second just allows for a conversation to be had about the item that needs to be discussed. If, for instance, there's a motion and a second, and then during discussion, there's a thought that maybe an amendment would make it more helpful to be passed, then you will ask the motion of the person of the motion if they would accept a friendly amendment, and then you'll ask the second, will you accept the friendly amendment now accepted by the motion
Mayor, there are
maker?
too many people who have their microphones open, and as a result, you're breaking up completely. I can't hear you clearly, and I don't understand really the sentence that you've said.
Is that the same for everybody? You didn't hear me? You
I heard
did? Okay, it might be on your side, Mr. Barr. So far, I'm getting thumbs up of people hearing. So that is the primary level. Now, let me take you to another level of what I think maybe the question is more specific. We have a book of codes, just like everybody else. Those are our laws, is the book of codes. And within the book of codes, and that's all available on our website, are articles. And so within each one of the articles are sections of items that fall under this. Previously, I was just talking about licensing, and that's section or article 6, and it talks about our licensing laws. Article 7, which is the one that I want to talk a little bit more about, is a peace and order. I think it's peace and order, as they call it, and which is relative to what the chief was just talking about.
Article
And so,
6 is licenses, Mayor. Article
Huh?
7 is peace and order.
peace and order,
Article 7 is peace and order.
peace and order.
Article 6 is licenses.
Right, exactly. And so when we do an amendment to an ordinance, the ordinance is in the book, and then we make an amendment. And the amendment is written in the way of what you saw on that Mr. Barr had sent over to you guys from yesterday. And it does a whole bunch of whereas and whereas and whereas, which are all preambles to say, this is why we're doing this. And then it comes down to the, and therefore, where is this, now therefore it be enacted. And this is all standard elected people language. And then you say what it is that you want to do. Now, in this particular case, and I'm going to read for you, because I sent another copy over with a couple of changes, but I'm going to read for you what Mr. Bard sent. This is all related to 24 hours. And we are talking about section 7108 of the code, which would be for peace and order. And it says a definition of a retail service establishment. A retail or service establishment is any retail establishment operated within the corporate limits of the town, which offers merchandise for sale to the public, including consumable food, beverages, provided, however, this definition shall not include an establishment wherein 75% of its daily sales are for consumed food preparation. Okay, so this is just establishing the food preparation. Now, Mr. Barr had included on here, this does not include gasoline, but I'm asking for that to be striked because there is a provision for us to deal with it for gasoline. Let me go ahead and share my screen. That way you guys are looking at what I'm looking at. All right, can you see that okay? Okay, so the next section, which is 7-109, hours of operation. Hours of operation. It shall be unlawful for any person or business entity to operate or cause to be operated any retail or service establishment as defined in section 7-108, herein of between the hours of 12:01 a.m. and 5:59 a.m. unless a 24-hour operation permit is approved by the mayor and town council. Should a retail or service establishment wish to be open 24 hours a day, an annual permit may be issued upon application to and approval by the mayor and town council. In any case, a Maryland certified police officer must be on duty during these hours unless the establishment is a drive-through. And then there's penalties that are added here to say that if any person or business was to violate this ordinance will be liable for municipal infraction up to $1,000, conviction and $1,000. So what this ordinance is trying to be is to pretty much say you can't open 24 hours unless you get permission from us. That's the bottom line. If you are a food place, as is IHOP, they've pretty much been given an exemption in that 75% of their food is issued. That for or McDonald's, after they had a bad incident, their drive-through is open 24 hours and only on the weekends. So those have already been taken care of. This new convenience store, which is already advertised to be open 24, is as the chief mentioned, a potential real problem to have a 24-hour store such as that. It's not a food environment store where people are going in and eating and sitting down. And they're talking about potentially doing like a window like they have at gas stations in the evening, which all purports itself to being not a great neighborhood kind of a thing. So I would like for you guys to consider introducing this. It would be introduced as an emergency legislation, and then we would schedule a hearing, a public hearing, probably for next week. And then after the public hearing, then a decision can be made whether to adopt it or not. So the ask here is just to introduce it so that we can examine it, bring in the public, hear what people have to say, and then make the final decision as to whether to move forward with it or not. So did I kind of answer your question, Councilmember Bowles? You're on mute.
Not with regard to rules of order or how our meetings are going to be organized. But I mean, I think I understand what you're doing here. I had downloaded the version previous to your last email and had studied that form. So some of this is new to me and I'm trying to catch up with you.
Yeah, so the only thing that I put on here different is I took off this does not include gasoline, because if somebody is going to have a gasoline station, we still want them, we want to be in control of the license and what that license says. So that's the one thing I changed. The other thing that I changed was in the next paragraph, it said if a business establishment wish to remain open 24 hours, well, remain indicates that they were open 24 hours. So I just changed that to be, if they wish to be open 24 hours. So I think that's more of a typo. And then at the end, I put, in any case, a Maryland certified police officer must be on duty during these hours unless the establishment is a drive-through. Now we have an agreement with IHOP that they will have a Maryland certified officer on duty during those overnight hours when they're open 24 hours. I've searched long and hard or had people searching to see where I can find that it's been established in law somewhere. And I can't find it. Mr. Barr can't find it. The chief can't find it, which means we never established it in law. Apparently this happened when Mayor Vanel was the mayor, and it must have been done as an agreement with IHOP as opposed to have been created in an ordinance. And I would say that if we have any food establishment that wants to be open during those hours, they should have a Maryland certified police officer on duty to ensure the safety of the patrons. Right now, that's only IHOP, but you never know. And so that's the reason why I added that piece to it. And that's it. That's the only real two things I added, just to sort of tighten it up a little bit. But in terms of the structure, I'm not sure I understand the question in terms of that. So you will have to help me out in helping me answer.
I'm just, I've not been in a governmental body before, but like in a meeting like this, I'm used to saying, I move to recess and getting that approved. Like if we need to go to the bathroom, or I move to amend, can I ask to amend this? Or I'm just used to a more formal Robert's Rules style of working. So I was just asking if we had a rules of order that was unique to us, or if we would be following that. And Mr. Barr's response was that we operate under a loose version of Robert's Rules. I believe, am I misrepresenting you, Mr. Barr, or is that more or less what you said?
No, not at all. But what you're confusing here, council member, is the rules of procedure for the operation of matters that come before the council, and the particular matter provided in the charter and an article, the article on local government of the annotated code. I don't know the section off the top of my head, which provides for the manner in which ordinances are adopted. An ordinance requires that it be introduced at one meeting, that it be advertised between then and the next meeting for a certain period of time. Advertising can include simply posting the ordinance on a bulletin board, or publishing it in a newspaper of general circulation in the community. And that are some newspapers probably you've never heard of, who exist for publishing legal ads. But they're nevertheless are newspapers of general circulation in the community. That then goes to a public hearing, which must be held, where citizens of the town or anybody interested in a particular legislation can come before the community, come before the mayor and council, and say whether they approve it, what amendments they think ought to be made, why they don't think it will work, why they don't think it won't work, why it's oppressive, and for every reason under the sun that they want to address the council concerning this particular legislation. Now, once that hearing is declared to be held, the mayor will, or the chairman of the council at the time the hearing is held, which would be the mayor or the mayor pro tem, or in the absence of both of them, a quorum can still be held because we can still have 3 council members. One of them would be chosen to lead the meeting by that group of 3. You would hold a meeting. Again, anybody would want to come before the mayor and council and testify could do so. And then it would proceed to consideration for adoption, for referral to committee, for no action, and we would go from there. Emergency legislation by law provides, and by law I mean the Maryland Constitution and the our charter, as well as the annotated code of Maryland. Emergency legislation has the benefit of going into effect immediately. It doesn't happen that day. To take care of things that have to happen that day, the town would call a state of emergency and would act upon its emergency powers to go forward. That's another day and another lecture. The legislation, once adopted as emergency legislation, is effective in the event of a referendum request, which all town legislation except the budget is subject to. However, if a proper petition was filed for referendum, the legislation would stay in effect until that referendum petition were voted on, as opposed to if it were not an emergency legislation, that legislation would be abated until voted in the affirmative at the next election. Sorry to be so long and winded.
So, I mean, you did a really excellent job of explaining what we do with an ordinance or whatever, but I kind of think that Councilmember Bowles' question is more related to operation of meeting. So, which I'm not really clear about. I mean, basically the way I operate a meeting is I ask for a motion. I ask if there's a second. If there's any discussion, and then a vote. If there is, if it's a serious matter, such as an ordinance or a budget item, I will ask for individual votes. If it's a minor request, such as starting the meeting or ending the meeting, I just do all those in favor, and say aye. If it's a matter that really is only pertaining to a consensus, not something that's becoming law, whatever, I will either do an all in favor, or I will say, is there any objections? Because it is a consensus and not a law or a rule or anything like that. And I'll say, is there any objections? With none, we'll move forward with the action. So that's cut and dry. That's pretty much how I run a meeting.
Okay.
But if you have to take a bathroom break, I don't necessarily suspend a meeting to do that. Some people may, some may not. I've gone to a lot of meetings. I sit into a lot of different town meetings, and I'm actually a little bit tighter than most towns in terms of that following that structure in doing a meeting. But that's the basic it.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Okay, so with all that said, is there a possibility that there's someone who would like to introduce this ordinance that impacts whether people can have a 24-hour store here without getting our consent?
I'll make that motion stated.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second the motion.
Okay, there's a second. Okay,
Who was the
discussion.
maker of the second?
Councilmember Harding.
Thank you.
Sorry.
Any discussion? Any questions about it?
Thank you for working on this, Mayor. Attorney Barr. Sorry.
Do we really look that alike? I thought people of Minnesota were much better than mine.
My apologies. Oh my goodness.
All right, y'all sure y'all want to ask some questions?
So Mayor, the matter of it being an emergency is just that we want to try to stop this before it gets started. Is that
True. Yeah, I mean, what we don't want to have happen is that, Mr. Barr said he doesn't think that they could do a grandfather, but I think we should have this in place before it happens, because it could render us unable to control what happens.
Yeah, 24-hour is not the thing in Colmar Manor.
Yeah, I the woman. I'm not. So we don't have a procedure. If they go 24-hour, we're stuck there. We don't have a procedure to stop them after they've started.
Mr.
Yeah.
Barr or Chief, you want to have, I mean, if they're disruptive or something like that, we may have some recourse, but we have more this way.
Gotcha. Okay.
Chief, you want to add anything?
Find that mute thing. I think to answer the last question, if this were not brought up, were not passed, there is a provision in there that once a business license is issued, it becomes a nuisance of public safety, then you could have a public hearing to revoke the permit. And in passing this tonight, I believe there's a public hearing in the near future, and this is not set in stone. This can be still modified and the provisions changed or tweaked to however. But passing it tonight, A, does not put it into effect, and B, it's not in stone either. It can be changed around a little bit.
This is an introduction, so it's sort of opening the door to say, this is what we want to do, and we'll give the opportunity. I mean, I'm hoping to do like a meeting on next Tuesday, if you guys can be available next Tuesday, for us to have a public hearing and see if other people have different thoughts.
Can we get it advertised timely, Mayor?
I'm sorry?
Can we get it advertised timely? Is Mr. Baden still with us?
I believe so.
Dan?
Yeah, but I'm with us. The newspaper general circulation has to be in by noon on Mondays for Thursday publication, so there's no way we could do it by Tuesday of next week.
But we don't have to, that doesn't have to be our sole way in order to do an advertisement. We have access to 75% of the residents of the town of Colmar Manor to speak to.
Well, it's been our normal way forever.
I know.
And,
I know.
I'll leave that up to Mr. Barr, but.
Well, I went and I checked to see, I found an Anne Arundel County emergency ordinance. They introduced on the 16th of May. They had their hearing on the 20th of May.
Mayor,
So-
that's it. That's not a municipal government. And I would not trust anything that's not for municipal government.
Well,
I hate to cut you off. I apologize for that, but that's not, that's
okay,
not.
I mean, all right, that's fine. I'll look and see, we'll look and see what we need to do in terms of setting up a date for a hearing. Bottom line is right now, it's just an introduction until we have the hearing and nothing else happens. And I'll just contact everybody to find out who's available for the date once we know how long we need to go.
I'm happy to support it. For me, I'm seeing it, and I know there are just a few changes, but I don't like to do anything last minute, so I'm trying to catch up with you, and I totally share your concern. I think another issue that they are already presenting us with is light pollution. They've got extremely bright lights, and it's bleeding almost halfway down 43rd Avenue. I wish we could get them to turn those lights downward and maybe turn them down a little bit. There's enough lighting on that building as it is to light up half of Bladensburg Road. And then they've got searchlights on it too. So, I mean, I think there's some red flags about the way that business is behaving already. So I'm with you there. So if we vote for this tonight, it's not set in stone. We can revisit it before the public meeting. So that's my main concern. So
Yes,
if that's
everything-
that helps me be calm. Thank you.
And it's purposely done that way, that an introduction there's space in between an introduction and an actual vote, so that it's out there, because you don't put it out there until you introduce it. And then conversation and talk can happen. And I appreciate your statement about last minute. I just want to let you guys know, I am totally against doing this like that as well. It's been a big deal to me is that we don't put things right on the table to say we're going to do it without being in a work session and talk about it throughout the work session and then bring it to a meeting. So I apologize significantly for doing this. I just think we wind up in this situation, unexpected scenario. So thank you so much. I will call for a vote. I'll call Ward 1.
Aye.
Ward 2.
Aye.
Ward 3.
Aye.
Ward 4.
Aye.
Mayor votes aye. Thank you, guys. We'll work out what's the date's going to be for the hearing and let you know what we need to do. All right. Thank you all so much for that. That's really going to be helpful for us to work on that together. So that is the last item on this agenda. And is there anybody who needs to share anything for the good of the order? I appreciate all of your conversation and questions. It's all very helpful. It's so hard when you're marred into something and you're used to it to make sure that you're communicating things people need to hear. So I appreciate all your questions. It means a lot. And with all that said, I will accept a motion to adjourn.
I will make that motion as stated to adjourn the meeting.
All right, thanks. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
All right, all in favor say aye.
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 Oh my
Any
goodness,
opposed?
guys. Woo!
Thank you. Y'all finish your